Good morning, party people. I am in the New York City area, and yes, I'm a hostage. I came here to do the cylinder head job, get out of here, go home, grab some things, and head to Chicago. I get here, and some mechanic is taking this 850 apart, as you've seen in the video previous, and they lost some parts, didn't put some things where I could find them, caused some delays, and a mechanic that worked on this car prior to me did some not so professional stuff. And now I'm here waiting for parts to properly fix this car and get this thing back on the road. So, in the meantime, I've contacted a couple people that have been waiting for me for 13, 15, 16 months. And I'm doing other jobs while I wait for these parts. Unfortunately, I figured out that I needed these parts that have to be ordered Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So I can't get these parts Saturday. I can't get them Sunday. Monday's a holiday-ish, so I ordered the parts. Nothing's happening Tuesday. Hopefully I'll get these parts Wednesday and get some things together. Then I jump over to do what I thought was a 2-day job. And my guy there has made a decision to do a modification that will benefit the car. However, got to get that part. So this is domino effect of the hostage effect of the Robert DIY tour of New York. I thought I would be on my way home yesterday. Today's the 4th of July. I'm in the White Plains area, contemplating whether I'm going to get some work done today because I need parts for another task I started. One of my longtime guys, Uncle Steve, hey, Robert, come by and do some control arms. I get over there. He needs a dash ripped out and an evaporator replaced. So, hey, man, I'm okay with it. Happy to do it. Still waiting on parts from the other thing. But I'm here. I'm in the New York area. I'm doing project after project, having some delays. So, I said all that to say this. I'm probably going to be stuck in New York for another 5 or 6 days. Not going to get back to Cincinnati probably till Monday, Tuesday ish. Probably not going to make it to Chicago because I have 2 trips planned, travel trips that are etched in stone. I'm flying to South Texas the 14th of July. I won't be back from there until like the 24th of July. Then the 29th of July is my fishing trip with Dan the Man and his buddies. That's, I think, a solid week. I won't be back to work until the second week of August. So I'm probably going to do this thing in New York, go home for 3, 4 days, then go to South Texas. So I'm not going to make it to Chicago until probably the second week, somewhere around the 10th of August. Then I'll take care of my Chicago folks. Other than that, I need a part. My guy here in doing this manual swap with on his yellow T5R in the Hudson Valley area. Somebody has done several things and worked on this car in the past, but one thing in particular is they took the turbo coolant supply line. They bent it, smashed it, cut it, and spliced it together. That is not a really good situation with that turbo supply line. So if you have an 850 or front wheel drive P80 car that you're parting out and you have this turbo supply line that you could sell and ship me, I would appreciate it. If you're replacing the turbo supply line, it's a little bent hose. I've done it several times. I'll link the video in there. I don't need the rubber hose. I need the actual hard pipe that bolts on the back of the turbo in between the turbo and the firewall. The top bolt is the oil line. The one on the back side of that, between the firewall and the turbo, is the coolant supply pipe that I need. It's a metal pipe. It's probably about, I don't know, 6 inches long. It's got a bend in it. It bends under to where you hook a hose up and hook the hose from that hard line to the coolant crossover line that goes from behind the water pump over to the transmission side of the engine. That pipe, as it goes past the turbo, it has two nipples on it. One nipple goes to the turbo, the other nipple goes to the heater core. I don't need the rubber hose. I need that metal pipe. So if you think you may be able to help me, call or text me and I will make sure it's the right one. I'll send you a picture of it or whatever, and we can get that thing shipped to my guy so I can fix that on his car. If I can't fix it, I can't fix it. But if I can, I want to because I'm back there where all this stuff is open. I got the transmission out. We're waiting on the quaif, and we'll get that thing together. That brings me to another point. A couple years ago, I rebuilt Red Baron, which that car has had a probably 18,000, almost $19,000 put into it in the build on that car. One of the things I did to that car was install a limited slip on the differential. There's two types of limited slip components that you could put in these transmissions. One is called a traction concept module. You put in there, you load it up. It's kind of like locking up the diff. Functions a little better than welding stuff together, but it makes sure that you have better traction in those vehicles. The other kind, which is a incredible deal, limited slip whole differential unit. They have a company called Gripper, another company called Quaif. A lot of people use the Quaif units. Those are, close to $1,000. You can get them a little cheaper than $1,000 if you order them direct from Europe from another company. You could order them direct from the company that makes them for $1,100 shipped, something like that. At any rate, I have decided not to put any manual transmission in any of my cars without one of these limited slip differential units. I'm either going to use a traction concept, gadget, or I'm going to use the whole thing. The transmission that I have to put into Lemonade has a quaif in it already. So Lemonade's getting a quaif. Whenever I do the clutch assembly or replace the engine on Panther, I'm probably going to crack that transmission and put one of these traction concept units in it. The reason being, if you are a automobile enthusiast and you enjoy driving, a limited slip differential in your gearbox will make that car handle, perform better. It's like having your car a little bit on steroids per se. So let's say you convert the car to a manual transmission. You get a lot more enjoyment out of having that car a stick instead of an automatic. Not to diss automatics, but if you're an automobile enthusiast, you like going through the gears. Well, if your car has a standard diff, I'm gonna link a video in the comments to show you some examples of the difference between a limited slip differential and a standard diff. But on a standard diff that comes in these cars, when you hit the gas and you're leaning on it, if you go into a curve or a turn or something like that, you've heard of understeer and oversteer. Well, a limited slip differential eliminates that or minimizes that. Where a open diff, like that comes in most of these cars, that runs wild and free. So you don't have the traction that you could have. So in the normal world, a open diff may have traction issues where a limited slip differential gives you better traction, gives you better control. Control in turns, control on loose pavement. Man, one time we went out in the wilderness to rent a cabin. I went with Elizabeth and Byron, rented it. I went along. They invited me to go along. Byron tried to climb a hill slowly that was a gravel road. Couldn't make it up the road. Because once one tire lost traction, the open diff would send all the power to the loose wheel. And the other wheel on the front wheel drive car didn't have any power. So one wheel spinning, trying to make it up this hill, pulling everything in that car one wheel drive up this hill instead of two wheel drive. So he couldn't make it up the hill because he didn't get a running start. He drifted back down the hill, and unfortunately, he went off the road a little bit. One tire went off the road. He immediately stopped, put it in first gear, tried to get out. One wheel lost traction, and it sent all the power to that one wheel that's spinning. He was stuck. Hours. Had to wait for a wrecker to come out in the wilderness to get him out of that situation. If he would have had an LSD in there, a limited slip differential, when one wheel starts spinning, it sends power to the other wheel so that you have two wheels trying to get out of that hole instead of one. In curves, when you start hitting it and the weight shifts in the car, if one wheel starts spinning, that's okay. The other wheel's getting power, so it's tracking around that corner. So I said all that to say this. I have decided not to put any of these transmissions in any of my cars anymore without a LSD in it or one of these traction concept units because I want to get the best and most out of driving a car, enjoy it to the fullest potential. So, fast forward to a couple days ago. 2 days ago, I show up to do a manual conversion on a yellow T5R sedan, and the guy there decides, hey, I seen that video of you with David's place. David dropped that Quafe LSD in there. Man, I'd like to get one of those. So now we ordered one of those and we're waiting for that to come in. So if you can afford it and you're planning on doing this conversion, manual conversion, I suggest that you order that piece ahead of time if you're going to have me help you with it so that when I get there, you could put it in or I could put it in or we could put it in so that that transmission goes in with that unit installed. You don't want to do this conversion and then come back a year later and put that thing in. That's just not that's not practical. So if you think you want the ultimate driving experience, either get one of these traction concept units or get a Quafe LSD, have that put in your gearbox so that you can have the ultimate driving experience. Preferably before I get there, if you want it, do it in your vehicle. So, hope that makes sense. Again, if you have a turbo car that you can send me that supply pipe from, call or text me. And if I'm going to help you with a manual conversion and you want the ultimate traction, I mean, this is going to help you in the rain so you don't slide around. This is going to help you in the snow. This is going to help you in aggressive driving situations, make it much more enjoyable. I'm telling you, when we put that yellow car on the road and I drove it, the first time I hit the gas and went around the corner, it was like, yes, I felt like I was back in Panther with some grit. That car felt great, even without performance mods. Let me tell you something. The first mod that you should ever do on your car, as far as performance is concerned, is suspension and traction. Put some good rubber on there, put some good suspension on there so you can take those turns. And these traction concept units, It's like the difference between you having cheap tires and having tires that grip the road and rip it. So I've taken up enough time on this video with that. If you got any questions, give me a buzz. I'll do another video on these traction LSD things, but do look in the comments below. I'll have a couple of links there that talks about um, LSDs and other traction units, and hopefully that'll help you make a decision. If you can afford it, do it. If you can't afford to do it, don't worry about it. But if you're going to plan on putting some power down, you definitely want to have traction to go with it. Other than that, you're spinning tired and you're losing your power. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. Have a great, happy 4th of July for all you folks that lives in the great US. You other folks that live in other countries, hey, wish us the best. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. I'm here with this gold 850. This is really my favorite color. And my friend here is having problems with the car downshifting. It's kind of like the lockup solenoid stays engaged when he comes to a start. It doesn't shift all the way down back to first. And then when he takes off, it starts hunting for the correct gear and shifts hard a couple of times. So somebody told him, or research revealed, that it's a solenoid inside the transmission, and it's behind this valve body here on the front on these 850s. So you got to get everything out of the way, lower radiator hose, all that stuff, battery, air box, so you can have some room to work. Then you take the top transmission line loose from the bottom side of the transmission. It's a 10 millimeter. It also has a 12 millimeter that bolts right there to hold that hard pipe line against the transmission. Then you take the lower transmission line loose. I call it the lower because it goes in the lower part of the radiator, loose from the top of the valve body. Then you take the front engine mount loose under the subframe and the transmission mount loose from the subframe, the 18 millimeters, and you jack the transmission up almost 2 inches. You don't have to take that loose, it'll pivot. The front one you don't want to take loose, that's holding the transmission and engine in position. The back one, it's kind of pivoting up as well, but you're trying to lift the front of this transmission up enough to get this valve body off. Now it has 9 T40 torque screws in there. That's kind of hard to reach. If you got one of those Laos bits that I like to use in the kit for the hydraulic tensioner, those have a shoulder on them that's kind of hard to reach in there. So it's better if you get a narrower T40 in there. You can see the difference of them here. That's the Laos bit. Oop. That's the Laos bit, and that's the standard one. It's a little, about a 1/4 inch narrower. This will reach into to get those torques out of that valve body, especially in between that little pan, just to the passenger side of the valve body. There's some recesses in there. This bit will get in there better. You got 9 of them to take out, and then it needs to be high enough so that you can get the tray, valve body tray, out of the way. Then we'll pick it up from there. We're taking these 9 screws out. We got all the screws out. The bottom one on the driver's side in the corner was very hard. It started to strip. Is that bolt here? We actually had to put a chisel on it to start chiseling it to get it to start coming loose. And once we got it turned about a 5 degrees with that, it come on out. So we got to find something to replace that because we couldn't get the right angle on the socket. Anyway, we're getting ready to break this loose and open up the valve body so you guys can see it. So our error code 333, or is it 331, Paul?
331 and 333.
Which one is what code is 331 for?
Lockup solenoid.
And 333 is for what?
Also lockup solenoid.
Okay.
Short circuit to ground and short circuit to supply.
Okay, so those are the two codes that we're dealing with, and that's the AW50-42 torque converter lockup solenoid. And these are the shift solenoids in here, Paul, these other ones?
Yeah, the S1, S2, yeah.
S1, S2. Somebody said they're different. Somebody else said they're the same. We're going to look in this area and see what we see. But we're definitely shooting for this one because this is where our error code is. We pried that off. I bent this top corner just a little bit right under this shifter thing to get that started off. We'll try to straighten that out. Got to be careful when trying to straighten that out. The good thing is it looks like these solenoids are right in front. That looks like the torque converter lockup solenoid.
This is the lockup one.
Oh, it's down there?
Yeah.
And these other two are up here.
Yeah.
These are shift solenoids, or what kind of solenoids?
It's 8 millimeter. Those are shift solenoids, yeah.
Okay, so there's two shift solenoids. One here, one here. One's got a yellow plug, one's got a green plug. And then the torque converter lockup solenoids right there.
Yeah, the bottom one.
So here it is, folks. The valve body cover off. And here's your solenoids. This bottom one here is the lockup solenoid. It looks like it has an 8 millimeter bolt holding it in and a wire connection. Then you have a shift solenoid there and the shift solenoid there. Somebody said they believe they're the same, but they have different part numbers in the Volvo system. So we're going to replace this and one or both of these if they seem to be the same and put this back together. We have a gasket to put this together, even though it looks like this one was glued on. We're up here in the transmission looking at the valve body. I unplugged the torque converter lockup solenoid. You can see the connector hanging there. It came unplugged very easy from the connector. I did have to pull on it pretty good to get it to pop out of the transmission. Now, I don't know what this is. It's some kind of solenoid too. It's got a wire connection to it, but right above it with the brown connector, I'd call it, yellowish brown tan connector, that is the S1 solenoid. And over here is the S2 solenoid with the green connector on top of it. So if you got a code and you know which one of those solenoids to replace, that's the two solenoids there. Now, this is how they plug in to that transmission. The S1 has the bolt there plugging into the transmission that way. The S2 has the bolt there plugging into the transmission that way, and their electrical connectors are as such. So we're going to replace one of these. I don't know which one. I'm going to ask Paul because he did have an error code at one time to replace one of these. And we're replacing this lockup solenoid here. And this is the one we got shipped to us. Has a different color connector to it. And the connector is different where it's plugging in the other direction. Anyway, we're getting ready to install that and replace at least one of these two and get this thing closed back up. Trying to remember where I got this bolt at. I guess it's a Volvo bolt, but I just can't remember where it came from. I'm gonna post it on Facebook, see if those guys can tell me. We're gonna get this so that the surface doesn't have any gasket maker on there. We put a gasket on there and we put a little gasket maker on both sides of the gasket, but we're gonna do a little bit more on getting that surface totally clean because we don't want nothing lifting that up. And then we're going to put it on. We don't have any information on torquing it, so we're going to put some thread sealer on there, high temp thread sealer, and we're going to torque it to maybe 10 foot-pounds because they were tight coming out. I torqued them all to 7 foot-pounds, which seemed like a lot, 84 inch-pounds. So do them somewhere in between 5 and 7. 5 foot-pounds would be 60 inch-pounds. So somewhere between 5 foot-pounds and 7 foot-pounds is probably good. 7 felt like a lot, but it's a rigid pan. Those bolts was really hard to crack loose. I did put thread sealer on them, and we did a gasket maker, and we did a gasket. We do not want this thing leaking. Now you can have yours leak. We didn't want to do that. So we're going to put the car back together and see where we're going to go from here. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.